Hello and welcome to Music Geekery Creativity Corner. At least, that's what I'm calling it for this episode. Doing something a bit different because I've found myself a bit burnt out by trying to do the reviews so constantly, and I needed to clear my room just to make it a bit of a better set, at least easier to move around. It's been a bit of a nightmare just trying to film, let alone do anything in the room. With that in mind, what I'm going to be showing you is the process I go through for making hammer and perler bead projects. If you're not familiar, well, that's what this is. Bringing it close to the camera so you can actually get an idea. And yeah, so I'll be making some of these for the next few videos. So without further ado, I'm going to show you some of the various materials that I use and have to hand. So you're going to see a fair few different types of beads, so if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments and could turn up in the next video. So as you can see, I've got quite a lot of beads. The collection's been mounting up over the past couple of years. And you've got the various materials I use, and here are a few examples of things I've made. So you've got the 9-inch nails and Weezer insignias. You've also got the Borderlands logo, and I know it's not entirely clear, but that's meant to be, this one's meant to be the Brotherhood of Nod insignia. Any Command & Conquer fans out there? Well, that one's because I am also a massive Command & Conquer fan. You've got versions of Cthulhu from Cthulhu Saves the World next to a Ditto, and also Manny's skull from Grim Fandango. Got Plusle and Minun from Pokemon, and Purple Tentacle from Day of the Tentacle. Red Hot Chili Peppers, My Hero Academia. Metallica's M, Overwatch, the Companion Cube, R2-D2, and Devin Townsend Project. That was one of the ones that was very early on made because massive Devin Townsend fan. And yeah, you just got all loads more beads. I've got a very extensive collection, so it's very unlikely that if you want something made, I won't be able to figure out a colour for it. So, you name it, I'll probably be able to do it. I've also got a collection of different types of Pokeballs that I decided, and also the stepping in and out of a portal. A lot of these were me looking up stuff online and figuring out what was worth me giving a go at, because I'm still figuring out a few things, but I'm fairly confident to get some new stuff and some old stuff done. But for now, what I'm going to do is show you how I made this one, because for the first video this is going to be fairly quick, and even though I'm going to time-lapse things, this will be easier for you to see what's actually done. So let's get to it. So when you're making any sort of hammer or perler bead or anything like that, it's generally a good idea to have some form of template or something online that someone has already done, so you get a good idea of, you know, if you just want to replicate it or you want to do something similar but not exactly. 9-inch nails was an easier one to do because it was literally just figure out what an N looks like in bead form and go from there. Other styles, it's a good idea to look up things like cross stitch, because the style is very similar, it's just putting beads instead of stitches. Those patterns will definitely set you right for what you want to do. I don't actually tend to use templates that often. I find it easier to just work out what, in my mind's eye, things would look like and then go from there. there'll be a lot of trial and error and me placing beads in different places to figure out what looks best. This one, there was a lot of me going, oh, I need to move that bead along for it to look better. But ultimately, you'll find it's all personal as to what works best for you. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to replicate the version I've got here, and then I'm going to do a red logo version. So that will be a case of the border and letters will be red, and then the filling will be black. So without further ado, let's get started with the reproduction. So unlike a lot where it's better to work out the border first, it's actually easier to work out the spacing of the letters with this one. So that's how I'm going to start this out. And I'm not going to be talking much, so this is where the time-lapsing will start. You'll see the relevant. I'm going to be listening to my music. It won't be the same music as what I'm listening to. It's going to be, obviously, 9 Inch Nails themed, or whatever the next project is. And go. Best to have that hidden so I don't get any copyright. Sometimes this gets a bit fiddly because you can either do it freehand or you can do it with tweezers. I do it with tweezers because it's generally easier. All these black beads and I can't get a hold of them. Oh, there's... and 2... Now the backwards end is a bit trickier, but you do get a reading for it. Next, we do the border, and that's going to be a case of me taking a bunch of these and just dumping them on the pegboard, because that ends up being a much more quick method than just picking them out of the tub. And go. Nope. Nope. That one just didn't want to be there. Right, and with all the black done, for now, yeah, one thing you'll find when you get perler and hammer beads is you'll end up with two colours in excess. A lot of black and a lot of white. I don't know if that's because white and black are the most commonly used colours. And before anyone gets on my back if they're not colours, they're shades or whatever, I don't care. For this context, they are colours. So, with that in mind, let's get the white out, and it's going to be a whole dumping of them. I can just scatter them right over things and it'll be fine, because they'll find one of them just found their place. So let's get on with it. If I can get a hold of the beads. Also, I have to watch out for errant hairs because of how hairy I am. Hairs everywhere. Bunch more. Right, so with that one done, going to get the red and black one. And once that's done, we're going to get to ironing these. So, now this one I'm going to start with the border first, just to make sure I've got enough room. I've counted the amount of beads, and it, in theory, is 12, so it is 12 high, I should say. So don't want it right next to each other, otherwise I'll end up with them fused together. That would not really be my intention. At least, not at the moment when I don't have a guillotine in case that happens, so I can separate them. Let's dump a bunch of red on. Oh dear. No. Oh, come on. Oh, I think I may have picked out a few too many red there, but okay. Yeah, that's the red sorted. Just put those beads back. One thing you find rather irritating is that the beads will go everywhere. Like, no matter how diligent you are in putting the beads away, there will be errant beads that just go everywhere. So. And now the black. And there we have it. So hopefully that shows quite nice. Yep, that's showing up nicely. Right, after we've got that done, now I'm going to go ahead and iron these. So back in a few seconds, which will be imperceptible to you. Okay, and here we go. Time to iron the beads. Got the iron, got the paper. It's important thing to note. This is slightly thinner than tracing paper. I've made the mistake of using tracing paper, and while it does technically work, it has a bit of a tendency to stick more to the beads than the standard paper should. So if you are going to use tracing paper, be very aware of that fact. Also be aware that sometimes the beads can come away with the paper, so you're going to want to be very careful because you're going to need to check it after every few run-throughs with the iron. You're going to need to check each time that it's come across. The other thing is, when you've ironed them and everything like that, you've got to make sure they're on a flat surface and that they've got a weight on them, because otherwise, as you can see with the first time I did this, there's a slight bend, and that's because obviously plastic, it bends when it melts. So yeah, keep aware of that. So without further ado, let's get to it. And it also advises to use circular motions, and it's on the cotton setting. My iron goes a bit hot, so I tend to go for a bit lower, but it does vary from iron to iron. It does advise to use a test patch. You can do that, but at the end of the day, if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You just go, okay, I need it to go a bit cooler, or in some cases a bit hotter, and just go along with how you want to do it. Yep, that's heated up nicely. Move that out of the way, don't want to melt the containers. And let's go. Also, you've got the options. You can either do it both sides or you can do it one-sided. I tend to do both sides because I prefer the security that ensures. But if you like them a bit more flexible, then just doing one side works perfectly fine. And you're probably going to see on camera that some of them are already fusing together quite nice. Well, you're not going to see on that side, but some of them are fusing together quite nicely. There's no set time for how long this can take, and sometimes you've got to go over it a few times and really press some bits for it to work. Let's see. Alright. Okay. So, as you can see, that's all fused nicely. And now let's just do the other side. You'll possibly notice a bit of difference in textures. There is a slight difference in melting point between perla and hammer, which I do use a mixture of both, but they do work together, contrary to what some people will lead you to believe. It's been a bit of a source of contention amongst some of those who use these, but I've not had a problem. It just means you have to be a bit more wary of things. And let's just go over the edge. And it's a bit of a pain getting them off the pegboard because you're having to touch hot plastic and it really hurts. Right, and that is right. Those are sorted. Now to put some weight on it. Now, fortunately, because I am a massive nerd, I have things like this, which are thick tomes that work well as the sort of weight you need. But any sort of heavy book would be perfect for this sort of thing. Now, you're going to want this to set for about 20 minutes to half an hour. So there's going to be a cut here and you'll see when it's set. But yeah, that's the optimal time that you want. Okay, so it's been about half an hour. In fact, it's a little over half an hour. So let's see how it's all turned out. These are very good weights for this sort of thing. So if you happen to have a Warhammer 40k book around, definitely use it. Alright, so yeah, that's all come out nicely. There's a bit of stippling, but it gives it a bit of character, and I'm admittedly still getting a bit used to it. I think, yeah, the red one has turned out a bit better. The good thing is they haven't bent like previous ones have, which has been a bit of a frustration. But one thing I will say is I'm definitely going to use a lower setting than what is suggested, because the beads melt a bit too quickly for my liking. So probably going to go for either the wool setting or a bit lower than that, because my iron is apparently much hotter than others. But anyway, so that's that for this episode. Next episode I'm going to be playing around with a bit more complicated shapes, like I might be doing, say, Bomberman, might be doing that. I possibly also one of the suggestions I got was to do a chinchilla, so might be doing that tomorrow or some point in the next few days. It's it's all a work in progress, really. This is very different for me, but we will see what comes of it as we go along. That's it for this episode. Stay safe, stay healthy, and whatever you're doing to occupy your time, keep at it.